Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today got a Void Knight build for you that's going to be based around Shield Rush and doing Doom with the Doom Axe Apothes Maul. Now, if you were with me with a stream quite a while ago, shortly after 8.2 actually came out, we found the axe. We actually tried it with Shield Rush just to try this version, and it was alright. But my friend Veyo has been working on a version of it as well, and we finally got it to a point where we think that it's really good and actually usable without making you go too dizzy with too much bouncing around. We got rid of volatile reversal and just kind of made it more of a stable build that does really good hit damage. So with it, you'll be using Shield Rush, doing lots of void damage. We're stacking lots of that. And then we'll have the Sigils of Hope, which will also give you a bunch of added damage. And then, of course, Abyssal Echoes is going to give you a lot of void penetration as well as cap out your void resistance for you. So with all of them together, we'll have a very high crit chance, do lots of hit damage, and be able to go pretty fast through the echoes. Now this build is a Sentinel class, your Void Knight, so you are going to be very defensive. With it, you're going to have a movement skill that allows you to get out of danger if you know that you're about to be hit. It doesn't have a cooldown, so you'll be able to use it at any moment and just rush out of danger and then instantly return back to where you were so that you can continue to do more damage. Now, while the skill does consume a portion of your health, so it looks like it's a very volatile build where your health is going up and down, you have such leech that the hit you do with it, which does do an AoE hit, is going to replenish your health really quick, and you're still going to have really high survivability. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how this build works. For skills, I'm running Lunge, Shield Rush, Sigils of Hope, Anomaly, and Abyssal Echoes. For Lunge, we have this set up the normal way for initiative for the extra crit chance, the extra damage, the extra armor, and invincibility. Got 3 points in Tactician, 1 point in Initiative, 5 points in Avenger's Charge, 4 points in Forge On, 1 point in Unstoppable, 4 points in Into the Fray, and 2 points in Blood Rush. Then for Shield Rush, we've got 2 points in Rush Mastery for mana efficiency with it, 1 point in Desynchronous Charge, which means that you'll return to your starting position when you use it, so you can charge all the way across the map, and that's how some people like to use it as a movement skill. But with this, it's going to return you back to the point that you started, which means it's not going to be great for trying to get halfway across the map, but it is going to have a purpose to this, and we're going to get into that. 1 point in Mana Memory means that when you're done using it, when you return to your position, your mana will be restored to where it was before you had used it. This gives it a 10-second cooldown. With 1 point in the Rush of Sacrifice, it no longer has a cooldown, but it's going to cost health as well as mana when you use it. The health will not be returned, but the mana will be. Then we've got 2 points in Consuming Path for 40% more damage. 1 point in Dark Rush means that it no longer requires a shield in order to use it, so now you can use the two-handed axe Apothes Maul. You can use any weapons, but we're going to use the axe in this case. This also gives it 5 base void damage, as well as increases the mana cost by 30%. However, this node, even though it does give it base void damage, does not give it the void tag. So in order to get the void tag, you must put at least 1 point in Void Breaker, and this gives the final hit base void damage, which eventually, or will officially, give Shield Rush the void tag. Now it's not shown here in the planner, but when you're in game, the void tag will appear on your Shield Rush. Then we've got 3 points in Warrior's Entrance for the final hit area to do even more, of an area. It'll almost double the size. It'll be 105% increased. 1 point in Echoes of the Charge, so the final strike will now hit twice. The second hit will be half a second after the first hit. Then we put 4 points in Stretched Time. This increased the delay between the echoes, or between the final hits, so you'll have the final hit and then almost 1 second later you'll have the final hit echo. This will also make it do 180% more damage. That is a multiplier. Then we got 1 point in Splintering Impact for final hit damage to be a more modifier of 20% again. This does affect both final hits, both the final hit and the final hit echo. Then 2 points in Critical Rush and 2 points in Obliterating Rush to increase the final hit critical strike multiplier and its critical strike chance. For Sigils of Hope, we have this set up for a lot more base void damage for your skills, which is what we're trying to build, is as much void damage as possible for the Shield Rush. This will also give you some armor and some increased damage. We got 5 points in Empowering Sigils, 1 point in Last Wish, 3 points in Decree of Flame, 1 point in Sigils of Despair, so it all turns into void damage increases, 1 point in Word of Alacrity, 2 points in Word of Power, so when you do cast it yourself, for 3 seconds you will have some more melee void damage, 2 points in Iron Sigils, 4 points in Enduring Hope, so the duration is increased, and 1 point in Tetragram, so you can have 4 of them instead of 3. For Anomaly, we have it set up for Time Bubble to get a lot of that leech, and so that we can get a high amount of critical strike chance. So we've got 1 point in Void Touched, 1 point in Immediacy, 1 point in Time Bubble, 4 points in Temporal Mastery, 1 point in Time Lord, 1 point in Lingering Memory, 4 points in Decimation, 1 point in Manipulation, 2 points in Swift Rest. We want to reduce that cooldown just enough so it'll have a 12-second cooldown. The reason we want that 12-second cooldown is that's exactly how long we can keep the time bubble so we can get 100% of it. And then 2 points in Time Eater and 2 points in Void Maul. For Abyssal Echoes, we've got 2 points in Echomancer, 1 point in Temporal Echo so that it will automatically recast after 1 second. This does not count as a manual cast, so for the 3 points in Abyssal Infusion, that gives you the 21% void penetration with melee attacks per time that you've manually cast it. This is only going to include the times that you're actually manually casting it, not the recast. So since it's on a 3-second cooldown, you can technically get in 2 of these for 1 second, because you'll be able to have the buff last for 4 seconds, so you get a little bit of overlap, so you'll mostly, for the most part, get 21% void penetration, but occasionally, for 1 second, you can get 42% void penetration, which is really powerful with void melee skills, which is what we're using. Then we got 1 point in Mental Echoes to turn it into an instacast, giving it a 5-second cooldown. 2 points in Reality's Dirge reduces that cooldown from 5 seconds down to 3. And 3 points in Abyssal Remains is going to cap out your void resist as well as give you a lot of mana efficiency, so you'll be able to put it on autocast and have it going off all the time. Then we got 1 point in Temporal Blight. This is going to be our debuff. It's a lot like Frailty. This one's going to reduce the attack speed, cast speed, and move speed for 2 seconds of enemies that are hit by Abyssal Echoes, and because it chains, there will be a good chance to hit almost all the enemies around you. 1 point in Dissolving Blight shreds armor as well. 2 points in Eons of Pain increases the duration from 2 seconds. This will increase it to about 3.2 seconds. And 1 point in Potent Blight makes it more effective, so it'll be a 30% increase of that 5%, which means you'll have just over 6% reduced attack, cast, and movement speed. It does not stack, so you'll only get 1 hit of Temporal Blight on the enemies. And then with 3 points in Sonority, this increases the area of the Abyssal Echoes by 120%, which makes them much larger, and that's going to make it much easier to chain as it hits enemies. Also, the reason we go for the 1 recast is to apply the Blight in case the first one missed or didn't hit any enemies. A second later, you're going to be able to apply it again. What this means is there's only going to be a 2-second gap between the recast and the time that you can recast the skill manually, so that you can usually get the debuff on just about everything. For passives, I've got 20 points in the Sentinel base class with 5 points in Overwhelm, 8 points in Juggernaut, and 2 points in Fearless, with the last 5 in Armor and Clad for that flat armor and so that you take 10% less damage from nearby enemies. 0 points in the Forge Guard. We got 15 points in the Paladin so that you can get the Sigils of Hope, 8 points in Defiance, and 7 points in Valor. And then 78 points in the Mastered Void Knight. We've got 10 points in Abyssal Endurance, 5 points in Temporal Corruption, 8 points in World Eater, 5 points in Patient Doom, 8 points in Void Blades, 1 point in Void Corruption, 11 points in Woe, 5 points in Finality, 4 points in Singular Purpose, 1 point in Eternal Form, 5 points in Void Aegis, and 15 points in Dread. Then for Idols, Items, Blessings, Uniques, for the idols, we're using the 1x1s that give you increased melee void damage. You can also get spell void mana efficiency with these, which is really nice. It'll reduce down the cost of Anomaly and Abyssal Echoes. You can wear up to 2 of the 1x4s. Then for the 1x3s, you can wear 2 of these. I only have 1 on this build. You can get more increased melee void damage. You can also run just 4 of the 1x3s if you have them, as you can get 4 of those onto your character, and that'll leave more room for 1x1s or other things that you want to run. Maybe there's some 1x2s that you'd like to fit in. I put in a lot of 1x1s, most of them just giving poison resist, and then we've got a 1x2 that gives us increased health and some elemental resist. For the unique, you will need Apothi's Maul. You get this from, I believe, the requirements. You get it from Orbis, that's where it drops, but I believe you have to have at least 100 corruption. So you got to be in the empowered content. I believe that's how it works. And I don't know what the actual chance to drop is. I know it's not 100%, but I've gotten a few of them at this point, so they do drop over time. This is going to give you a huge amount of melee void damage. It's also going to give you a chance to apply Doom. The nice thing about applying Doom is it's going to increase the melee damage that the target takes. So after you get a couple of hits on the target, along with the Abyssal Echoes that's giving you void penetration, the enemy is going to take a lot more damage. And then I'm just going to hover over all of the crafted items. This build planner, again, as always, will be in the description below as well as in the written guide, so either place you want to look at it, or you can take a look at all the affixes and change them around to fit the type of playstyle that you want. And then for blessings, same thing, going to also be in this builder so that you can see it. We do have Void Resistance Shred on chance of it on hit, which is really going to increase the amount of void damage you do against enemies, as you can get them up to negative 75% of their void resist, which will give you 75% more damage. Really helpful against bosses, especially in empowered content, for being able to put out better, more damage. For the character sheet, as you can see, we have just over 3,100 health, lots of health. We put it on all of the slots that you can get it. We even have some on the idols. Remember, we are a little shy on our resistances. The void doesn't matter because that's going to be cast or capped as soon as we have Abyssal Echoes going. However, the necrotic, the elemental, and the 2% of physical that we are missing, if you want, you can definitely get those on idol slots and just remove a little bit of the damage, as your damage is going to be plentiful. We also got 31% armor, but this is also going to go up quite a bit once we have the sigils active, once you're lunging and getting that 100% increased armor. So you're going to have about 50 to 60% armor in battle. The 1% dodge, not building into any dodge. And then for melee damage, we do have 325% critical strike multiplier, which is really going to help our critical strike. We have very, very close, if not, we are at 100% melee critical strike chance with our shield rush when we have lunged and when we have Anomaly active, because they're going to give us a huge amount of critical strike chance. And then of course we took the base critical strike chance inside of shield rush, which is going to give us our 100% crit chance. You'll notice that you will crit almost all of the time. Very easy to build into that. You don't even have to get critical strike chance on gear, but if you want to, you can. And then of course, since we are wearing the two-handed unique that doesn't come with base critical strike chance, it's very important that you take some base critical strike chance inside of shield rush itself, which we covered when we went over the skills. Alright, and then for how to play this build and how it works, I like to put Anomaly on autocast so that we can always have it going. We'll do the same thing with Abyssal Echoes. I like to do the same thing with Lunge. However, with Lunge, you want to be careful not to, when you get into boss fights like Orbis, you want to take Lunge off autocast and only use it when you need it, because you don't want to accidentally hover over the enemy, run in there when it has, the big void rock coming down, and then it just kills you. And then the Sigils of Hope, which can proc on enemy deaths. Against bosses, you will have to manually cast it. You do have enough mana regen in this build to be able to cast it, to be able to get, your 4 stacks of it against single targets when you don't have enemies to kill. And then really after that, all you do is you just shield rush. And remember, shield rush is going to consume some of your HP, but you'll get it back in leech. And then it's just as simple as you just use it, you just tap it really quick, and you can see the damage that you do. It hits in a huge area, about the same circle as the training dummy. And then the main hit that it does only does 20 to 30k damage, but it's the echo that happens 1 second later that does huge amounts of damage. You can see that's critting for us between 60k and 80k damage, which is a pretty big hit. And remember, if you go nuts, you can go super fast, but if you go too fast with it, it tends to flip out your mana. And I'll show you what I mean here. Like if I keep doing it once at a time, you'll notice I have no mana issues. But then if I sit here and I just start going nuts with it, you'll notice that my mana gets kind of caught in a cycle, and you can end up negative mana and unable to cast it, like we were there for just a split second. So you got to be a little careful, but for the most part, it works as intended, and you do get your mana back every time you use it, and you can do some massive damage with it. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that it's a kind of a, I won't say clunky build, but it can be dizzying the amount of times with shield rush that your screen's bouncing back and forth. You can throw volatile reversal into the mix, but again, that's just going to make it even more bouncy. We did that on stream, and it got a little crazy because we were trying to time it to where shield rush would take you forward, then it automatically returns you to starting point, then you could use reversal and go back to where you were. but it was like, whoa, and then you could lunge from that point. So it was all over the place. It was fun to play for about 5 minutes before my head hurt. But as always, that's going to be it for this build, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Hope it's easy to follow. As always, stay safe, travelers, and have a good day.